Bonjour tout le monde. Hi golfers. Welcome to week 4 of our golf and fitness program. Marc-André Piette joining you from the Fitting Center teaching facility here at Hylands Golf Club. We're excited to have you guys for our 4th week of instruction. So hopefully you will benefit from the stretching and strength exercises that Derek gave you the last couple weeks. This week we're going to tackle now talking about more weight distribution at address. Again, a fundamental in terms of posture, and also how much knee flex we should have at address. So just to get back to what we've discussed about in the previous weeks, we've talked an awful lot about posture and the importance of setting up over the ball while engaging the right group of muscles. When it comes to weight distribution, same idea. Again, a key element to how we're going to set up over the ball. So what we want to make sure we do is we want to make sure that our center of gravity falls right at the right place, which is right over our shoelaces. So if I'm addressing the golf ball properly, again, if we remember what we've discussed about, we're going to hinge from the hips while keeping our spine neutral. And then from here, I want to just slightly unlock my knees forward that way. So my weight comes right over my shoelaces. So I don't want to be sitting further back and have all my weight in my butt or in my heels, but I also don't want to have too much weight forward in my toes. What we like to talk about when it comes to weight distribution, like golf is a sport like no others, and then you want to have the weight into an active position. So you watch any sport on TV, you'll never see an athlete sitting into a passive position that is not ready for action. So really want to make sure that we have our weight here somewhere over our shoelaces, and then we're active and ready to go into that posture. And from here, we can take a confident swing and then make a good strike. So Derek is going to follow up with good instruction with you to help you guys with that proper weight distribution and setup, and we'll see you guys next week.
Welcome back, CAF members. Derek, FSI and TPI certified coach here at the Carling location with PSP Fitness Ottawa. We are back for week number 4 for your golf fundamentals and fitness program. In week number 4, we're talking about weight distribution. So Marc-André did talk a lot about where you want your weight to lie in regards to your body in your setup position. He talks a lot about flexing from the hips, which we covered last week with the hip hinge, but he also talks a lot about flexing through the knees and flexing through the ankles. Okay, so what I'm going to give you guys today is great mobility drills to open up the ankles and the knees, or around the knees, so your quads, your hamstrings, and your calves, to allow you to more easily flex in those positions to get your weight evenly distributed over top of the middle of the foot, like Marc-André said. Okay, so the first one, you're going to need an object. A round ball will work well. This one's a lacrosse ball, so it's fairly firm. You can do this with any kind of, even like a pop can or something like that at home, something that's round that you can roll your foot on. I've known people to do this with a water bottle filled with water but frozen as ice. But the best thing to have would be like a ball such as a lacrosse ball, a baseball, or a softball. A tennis ball might not work. Golf ball, very hard to do as well because it'll push up in your foot a little bit more. But what we're going to do for the plantar fascial scrub is we're going to try and just roll the bottom of the foot, okay? And what we're doing here is we're trying to take the fascia, which is a protective layer or a covering sheath over top of the muscle, and we're trying to spread it out. It's almost like a good analogy here would be like taking pizza dough that is in a ball and rolling it to try and spread it out, and that's what's happening with a fascial scrub. Usually if you do some fascial scrubbing and you try and touch your toes before and after, you'll notice a difference because it does play all the way up that posterior chain. So by loosening up the bottom of your feet, you will also loosen up some of the calf and the hamstring as well. Okay, so it's all one interconnected sort of network. So you're going to do that on both sides. I would go for 2 to 3 minutes on one side, and don't forget to scrub the inside part of the foot the outside part of the foot. You can also just press on one area and spread your toes and close your toes and spread, but you're working from basically the ball of the heel to the knuckles of the toe. You can do it sitting down or standing up. The second one we're gonna need is gonna be a foam roller, okay? You can use a foam roller, you can use a rolling pin, you can use a dumbbell and just sort of scrub your calf on the dumbbell, but number 2 is going to be called a soft tissue scrub or a soft tissue roll on the calf. So starting from just above the ankle, we're gonna hit this at different angles, so we can do this in different fashions where you're rolling either side to side. You can roll front to back, but what I want you to think of is focus on like 2 to 3 inch segments at a time. So I'm gonna focus on 2 to 3 inches above the ankle, rolling back and forth. If I don't feel enough pressure, or if I don't really feel any kind of tension here, I can also put my other foot on top of the opposite shin, and it'll give me a little bit more pressure down on the calf. But a lot of people have very tight, sensitive calves because the muscles are tight, so you might be enough with just one leg on the foam roller. After about 30 seconds in one spot, you're gonna move on 2 to 3 inches above that, and we're gonna go for 2 to 3 inch segment rolls, focusing on the inside and the outside part of the calves. What we're looking for is what we call hot spots. So spots where there's sort of like a muscle bulge or there's muscle tension there. We want to try and work out the kinks. You can point your toes into plantar flexion and dorsiflexion if you're on a good spot, and just hold there. And you're going to work your way from just below the ankle to all the way up to just below the knee. Do not roll on the section where the knee goes into flexion. You can do both legs at the same time, or you can do one leg at a time, but obviously if you do one leg at a time, you're gonna do one side and then the other side. Now we go into more dynamic movements. So the next one's gonna be a downward dog with ankle pedaling. So what we're gonna do for this one, downward dog, we're putting some weight in our hands, and then from here, we're gonna try and drop the 2 heels towards the ground. Dropping the 2 heels towards the ground with the hips up in the air will allow for a nice stretch from the bottom of the foot through the calf all the way into the hamstring. Now, in order to make this more dynamic, I'm just gonna turn sideways here a bit. We're gonna pedal. So one heel drops, so I get a stretch on my left leg, and my other heel comes up. And then I'm gonna alternate side to side. Doing this for 15 repetitions per leg, not holding for any more than 3 to 4 seconds per side. Always trying to keep the hips up in the air. Number 4, we're moving on to elevated front foot lunge. Okay, so what we're gonna do is you can either go from an elevated position. I'm gonna show you it from the ground as well, but we're looking for ankle mobility here. So we're trying to generate some more movement around the ankle. So the lunge doesn't have to be too long in length, but what we're gonna try and do is we're gonna keep the heel on the ground, pushing the knee outside the baby toe, and we're gonna get as much flexion in the ankle as possible. So we wanna shut down this angle. We wanna keep this angle shut, and then we're gonna come out of it. So the hips move forward, knee moves out, but very important to keep the heel on the ground to make sure that we're getting full mobility in the ankle joint. If we want to make this a little bit easier, but we can put a little more weight into it, we can do it elevated. Okay, so one foot on a box, it can be on a step at home, it can be on anything elevated, maybe a plate as well if you have weight plates around. And we would do the same thing. So keeping the heel on the box, driving the knee out, I can put more weight over top of my knee to generate more stretch from the heel all the way through the calf, and then I come back out of it. So we're gonna make it dynamic where we hold for no more than 5 seconds in this position and then come back out. And again, unilateral movements we're gonna do on both sides. 2 more for you. The second last one's called a tall saddle stretch. So tall saddle, feet are underneath the butt, okay? And what we're gonna do is we're gonna get a stretch on the top of the ankle this time. And if we wanna get a stretch in the quads and the hip flexors, we can actually lean back a little bit and push our hips towards the ceiling. And then I can come back into that tall saddle position, stretch on the top of the ankles, lean back, support myself with my hands, and push my hips towards the ceiling. This will work on flexion of the knees and extension of the ankles. The last one is going to be half straddle with calf dorsiflexion. Okay, so half straddle is almost like a runner's lunge position. So one leg forward, one leg back. I'm going to tuck the toe underneath me on the leg that's in behind me. And for this one, I can use a band as well to give myself a little more dorsiflexion, which just means toe pointing towards the shin. So I'm leaning back towards my back leg, getting a stretch in the ankle on the back side, but I'm also getting a stretch in the hamstring and the calf on the front side by pulling using that band. You can use a towel at home as well. And I'm just trying to bring the toe closer to my shin and relax. Bring the toe closer to my shin and relax. At all times, your knee should be straight on that front leg so that you also get a stretch in your hamstring. Those are 6 easy mobility drills that you can use to improve the mobility in your ankles and your knees, which will allow you to get into better positions when it comes to weight distribution in your address position in your golf swing. We'll see you next time for your corrective exercises for week 4.